Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you have found the time for me and my ramblings. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are listening to the finale of season 1 of Only Dead Fish Go with the Flow. The format of this podcast is titled very much Your Older Sister has sent you a very unhinged but slightly motivational voice note. I hope you enjoy this format and don't copy it. I think normally you would maybe split a season into slightly fewer episodes, but we have done a year's worth of podcasting tomorrow. The first ever episode of Only Dead Fish went out to everyone's ears. And I thought, why not start or why not end this season as I started a year ago on my own and rambling just as I went. I've got some end of year stats for you. It's like school homework. So we are now a community, me, you, your mates, whoever else listened, just over 500. I think we are actually 600 on Instagram, but some of you are sneaky little snakes and you don't follow the podcast on its audio platforms. That's where the real fun is. That's where I yap to my heart's content with lots of different people. So you should definitely check that out. When I set out on this project, the only objective was to be able to, I guess, coach more people than I was already coaching, or be a sporting help to more people than I was already coaching. I think maybe that at the time was about 120. So I have definitely achieved that one, which is absolutely crazy. And obviously with the help of the community, it's not just me, and hearing from everyone as well. So people messaging in to say that the podcasts have really helped with their coach-athlete relationships or being able to support their athletes better, or people saying that they've listened before racing and it's helped sort of calm them down and give them something to follow, has just been very, very heartwarming. I thought, though, it would probably be quite good to talk about some of the fuck ups, some of the funnier parts of the podcast, because there have been one or two moments where I have like really fucked up. I would say one of my lowest points while recording this podcast was I was asked to do a after dinner talk for a rowing club on the Tideway. Shout out, guys, Tideway Scholars. So I'll paint the scene. The day before, I'm due to go and do a talk in London. Got dinner with the girls for a friend's birthday, get food poisoning. Thought I was absolutely fine. Woke up the next morning, sick as a dog, trying to get all the errands done that I had for that day. So I was going to a printer, drove to the printer, plastic bag open on my lap. My car is affectionately known as a mobile skip because there's always a load of crap in it. Thankfully, there was a plastic bag. Open that up, drive 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back, no vomit, get back, vomit. Have to ring the coach who I was supposed to be doing the talk for after dinner and be like, I'm so sorry, I am not very well at all. I did end up sending Matt, my husband, to go and do the talk, so it was all fine, but I have never felt more like a J13 in my life, even though I obviously was one at one point, having to ring up a coach and be like, I'm not very well. So I completely apologise for that. That was a real low moment. There's nothing quite like staying at one of your best mates' houses on a pull-up mattress, wearing 3 jumpers because you're sweating and worried you're gonna shit all over her bed sheets, which I didn't. So that was a real bonus, but a real low moment for the podcast. Having to cancel on that. I was so excited. Obviously, Matt went in the end, so it was absolutely fine. You know, you could have a podcaster, but instead you got an Olympian. But I was looking forward to, being star centre of attention and bringing an Olympian as my plus one. I feel like that is such a flex, and absolutely jokes for him to be the one sort of, being dragged along to something for once. While we are on the topic of fuck ups, I always openly say I am quite dyslexic and my spelling is atrocious. But what I would also like to point out is some of you are hiding in plain sight and you're not owning up to not being able to spot something, or you're trying to protect my feelings. So the reason I bring this up is I got some stickers printed out very early on in the podcast and had the first like 10 samples, gave them out, and then ordered the same again from a different company and got those stickers in, and they arrived, sent them out. Bearing in mind, the graphics for this went through my family, and they went through a group chat with 4 of my friends, and they also went through a few independent chats as well, and all got cleared. Nobody said, or nobody pointed out until I went to do the 3rd round of these stickers to get them printed out, that there was a word missing on the bottom of the stickers. So instead of only dead fish go with the flow, it said only dead fish go with flow. And I would just like to let everyone who okayed that graphic know that my 7-year-old goddaughter was the one that read the sticker and pointed it out to me. So you're all losers. You need to brush up on your observation skills just as much as I do. And I think that was very cost-effective fuck up. And yeah, congrats to my goddaughter. You won the stickers and you managed to spot the complete missing word that I managed to put on 2 different rounds of stickers. Real highs of the podcast have been meeting people. I have been introduced to some really, really cool people who do this as like a professional job. And they've been so generous with their time. And I think like a huge part of all of this is if you don't ask, you don't get. So make sure whatever it is in life, you fucking ask for it, because you definitely won't get it if you just stay silent. So that has been a real high. We've run 2 events. We did a coffee workshop back in October, and we also did a cold plunge podcast contrast therapy session at Calcott Spa in April, which was really, really cool and a real pinch me moment to be like, oh shit, this is happening. I suppose ultimately what I wanted to talk about today, because I do have some sort of plan other than just like rambling for a period of time. My dying on the hill is it's never too late to start something, and it's never too late to start again. So there's starting, and then there's scrapping it and starting again. And I think a really big part of that for me has been like doing some therapy, which I would recommend to literally everyone, but also my training diaries is about planning. And some people may listen to that and laugh if you know me, because I am absolutely terrible at planning. However, I do believe having a good training diary or knowing how to do a training diary can set you up for the rest of your life. And I don't mean like, oh, you do your training and you like write it down. I mean, yeah, that is part of it. Obviously, that's what makes it a training diary. So when I started the podcast, I sat down and felt a little bit like life was in tatters, with my health diagnosis, leaving my job, feeling like shit. Obviously my relationship was fine, so that's always nice. And my nails look good because I was painting my nails at the time regularly, because you can't look like shit and feel like shit. It's one or the other, so you've got to maintain something. But I sat down and I did, I don't know what it's supposed to be called now, brainstorm or a mind map or whatever it is. And I wrote down what I wanted life to look like in a year's time. And it was like quite basic stuff, but it was to be able to still be involved in sport. So this is my solution to that. It was to be living a much more colourful life. It was to be saying yes to things a lot more often. It was to have my health under a bit more control. There were so many different parts to it. And I also wrote down a 5-year one as well. And this isn't like a vision board, which I'm totally on board with as well. But this is like just a quick list, like right on the top of my head, 5 minutes max. What are things that I want my life to look like? And how am I gonna achieve that? And spoiler, I have no idea how to achieve any of those things, but it did give me a lot of direction moving forward. Now, the reason I bring it up is in my training diaries when I was an athlete, I used to do kind of the same thing. I would have a gold, silver, and a bronze target for the year of training. And I would fill out my gold target for the year, like the absolute pinnacle of the season. The win that I didn't want to tell anyone about because I thought they might laugh at me because it was such a stretch. That would be like my gold target. It's like kind of unachievable, but kind of maybe if the stars align and the moon is in the right face, you might just achieve it. That would be my gold target. And then there'd be a silver target, which I should probably achieve. It'll still be hard, but I should definitely still achieve it. And then there would be a bronze target. And that would be like, if all else goes to shit, I will achieve this. And so I could tick it off. And it really helped shape my training. One, voicing my desires and what I wanted to get out of it without being like ashamed or feel like I was being big-headed. And it also was very motivating, being able to go to the back of my book in my training diary and tick those things off. And so I really see a parallel, I guess, in both of those things. I thought it was important to bring it up. One of the other section of my training diary, aside from just like filling out your training like a normal person, was whenever I used to get overwhelmed about, things weren't going well, I would write down everything that had already gone right in that season. And I've done something similar with the podcast as well. I've filled up 2 notebooks full of dyslexic scribbles where everything is spelt wrong, so there's no way that anyone's going to ever understand it and steal any of my ideas. I would write down everything that I'd achieved so far in the season whenever I got overwhelmed. So at one point it was I'd passed an assignment at uni, I'd passed my driving test, which such a flex. There wasn't such a queue back then to do your driving test. I'd managed to work a job for a prolonged period of time and not get sacked. I'd got to training on time every day that week. Maybe it was a big thing or maybe it was a small thing. And it also included like winning an event or coming second or doing whatever. I'd make sure that I had a list of achievements. I don't know, coach myself. I think when you're part of a big training group, it's easy to feel lost and not feel like you've got a clear direction. And so I found that really, really helpful in terms of managing myself and not always looking for external validation from a coach. It is their job, but they've got a lot of spinning plates on. So sometimes it is a good idea to monitor that yourself. So if you are listening to this and you're like, this is interesting, or maybe this woman has absolutely lost the plot, I would really, really encourage you to sit down for 5 minutes today before everything gets crazy with, I guess, the rowing schedule is about to go mental. There will be other sports that are doing lots of racing this summer, but I would really encourage you to sit down and before everything explodes, to write down everything that you've achieved this season or this sporting year and where your hopes and dreams are for the end of the sporting season. Give yourself a gold, silver, and a bronze target and dream big and, make it as obscure as possible and spell things wrong. In honor of the Only Dead Fish podcast, make sure something's spelt wrong or there's a word missing, because that's absolutely what I would do. I think from being in sport and then not being in sport or not being an athlete or a coach anymore, I think both of those things have taught me, if they have taught me anything, is I always had way more time and there was always way more journey than I ever felt. Everything can feel so fast and so final, but it isn't. And it's really important to remember to take a step back, write your lists and be a bit whimsy when you're, thinking about your sport or your career or whatever it is. Pay an Etsy witch, follow your horoscope. You have free will. You can be a good athlete. It doesn't have to look a certain way. Do whatever it is that makes you feel happy and in control, within reason. Etsy witches, horoscopes, good options. And I guess the other side of the podcast, which is, a bit of a random voice note or a bit of an unhinged voice note for the end of the season is, what would you like from the podcast? Ultimately, I want it to be a tool for sport, a big sister you can rely on for help, even if you have stolen her clothes and not returned her favourite top or whatever it might be. Somebody who can always give you some form of answer, or knows somebody that can give you the right answer. So I'd really love it if people wanted to write in. You can message us on Instagram, or you could message the podcast via our email, which is onlydeadfishpodcast@gmail.com, and let me know what you would like to hear more of, I guess. I've got quite a few people lined up who haven't quite made it into season 1 due to timetabling, so I do have stuff already, but I would be really keen for the podcast community that has grown to sort of shape what they feel they need more of. This is also, I guess, a request. If anyone is good at websites, I would really love some help. I can't pay you, but I would like to find someone else who is like-minded or wants to help support this as a tool for people, so that we can direct everyone to like the right information at the right time through the right podcast, if that makes sense. So have a think, and I guess let me know. What is the podcast going to look like when we come back? Ultimately, the podcast is going to have a break. It will probably be a month, maybe a month and a half. Depends how I feel, you know. I'm a big girl. I need a break. Now, I don't know if this is the right thing to offer or not, but I know lots of people do listen regularly, and I know that it is a form of mentoring, listening to the podcast and sort of receiving support that way. And if anyone feels over the next month and a half that they are super out of their depth and they need, I don't know, podcast mentoring, I am not recording you your own podcast on my month off, but I am more than happy to talk to people over our email address or on Instagram and offer any help or advice that might be needed over specifically the rowing season, which I know is about to heat up. So you are not completely on your own or on the lurch. You are never on your own. There is always somebody out there who is also going through something similar, and you just got to find them and chat with them. But I will definitely not leave you guys on your own, even if he is just my mum that is listening every week. But I know some people do listen immediately every week as soon as the episode comes out. So if that is you and you do feel like you need mental support, please do reach out and we can chat. We can be friends. That's fine. But I just can't record a podcast every week. I'm sorry. We've done 51 episodes now. It's a lot of guests. It's a lot of admin. But we will definitely be coming back, and we will announce it on Instagram probably, because apparently now you have to pay £4 a month for TikTok, and so I might have to delete my TikToks. I'm not very good at it anyway, and I'm not paying £4 to not have adverts on. Maybe that's fake news, but that's what Matt told me earlier. I have 2 final things to say. Oh no, maybe 3. Who knows? So the first one is to say a massive thank you to all the guests who have given their time for free. They've given their information. They've shared their personal, intimate stories. There is nothing like a vagina story to bring everyone in solidarity and have a good giggle. So I really want to thank all of our guests for being so open and honest, and making it a better space for the sportswomen of the future. And I also again want to say a massive thank you to all of our listeners. As a thank you, we will be doing a giveaway. I will announce it on Instagram on Friday, so a few days after the podcast. We are basically going to be giving away everything, I hope, that we listed in the podcast Christmas wish list, because I genuinely believe all of those things would be great essentials to have if you are a woman in sport, or know a woman in sport. You could always give it to someone else if you win it. So the details for that will be on Instagram, and that will be coming out on Friday. Now, usually at the end of the podcast, we sort of round off with words to live by. And this week it is, she's a 10, but the 10 stands for tense. And I think that is the story of my life. Always tense and on edge, even though I try not to be. But, only dead fish go with the flow, so maybe that's okay. And of course, finally, my soundtrack of the week. I'm going to have to look at my phone to see what I've been playing. It is from The Devil Wears Prada 2, which I haven't actually seen yet, so I need to get out there and go and see it. But it's called Material Lover by Vienna Soprano, and it has been on repeat every morning. It's the first thing I do. I roll over, I get out of bed, and I have a boogie while I get dressed. And so I hope you do too. As always, please like, follow, and share the podcast with anyone you think who might need it. You can find us on Instagram at Only Dead Fish Podcast, and you can email me, as I said earlier. And yeah, just want to say a massive thank you, and I'll chat, oh my God, in a month or so. Bye bye.